What we're going to cover today is the differences between a freshwater farm plan and an FEP, and identifying risk through the mapping. The other key part of this is some of the mapping and what actually has to be provided in the mapping for that. So there is a list of maps required, and the key thing for mapping is you actually, whoever's writing the freshwater farm plan, and whether it's the farmer or that, is you decide how many maps. You could decide what you need to put on the maps, but there is a list of content that has to be covered somewhere. My experience as a farm environment plan auditor and someone who's been involved with farm environment plans for the last 10 years is the best maps are the ones that farmers understand. I have been onto farms where farms have said, this is my adult colouring in, and they give me a farm map that has got whether it's marker pens or coloured pens, and they've just highlighted different areas and where different things have to happen. So for them, that's the map that they understood, and that was the really important thing, and that was something that they could give, you know, everybody involved in their farm business, so that they could actually see it and they knew what to do. So yes, there are some really neat digital tools out there, and yes, a consultant, and remembering I am a consultant, consultants are very happily spend thousands of dollars developing impressive digital maps for farmers. And coming up with a 40-page freshwater farm plan, but actually they're not the ones that can actually make the real difference. The ones that make the real difference are the ones that that farmers relate to and understand. And with the mapping, there are a few challenges that we've discovered while we're mapping in Canterbury. One is often farm areas do not equal the legal titles. They, for a number of different reasons, and this farm is actually a South Canterbury one, and when I did the farm environment plan, I discovered the legal title went about 100 metres into the sea. And that's the legal title's on the bottom, but you can't see that well. But the key area for the map was actually identifying, you know, the waterways that are marked in there and which ones are stock excluded and how they're going to manage it. So those are the key ones, and then identifying the different land management areas. There's a centre pivot, you know, whether it's an effluent area, those sort of things. Those are the key things in the map. And you know, you'll find that farms don't equal the areas for a whole lot of reasons. It might be that they've got paper roads that they're farming. They might be farming Crown land or council land that's not actually leased. They might have done a land swap with their next door neighbour. Rivers move. Sometimes a paddock ends up on the wrong side of the river and they do a swap with a neighbour. You know, there are a whole lot of different things. So, but I don't think for freshwater farm plans, actually that's the thing that really matters. The thing that matters is the risks on those farms, and if the numbers, because there's no nitrogen load associated with it, if the numbers don't quite add up, does it actually matter? And I don't think it does. I think the key thing is actually getting those risks identified properly on those maps, and for farmers to understand them. So there are a whole lot of sources. You know, whether it's our environment, where there's some quite cool maps around habitat, ecosystem services and nitrogen loss, landscape slope. S-maps is one that I use a lot, whether it's for the drainage maps, identifying poorly drained areas versus well-drained areas, and the other one is nitrogen leaching susceptibility is there again, identifying what's at risk. Is it a high risk for nitrogen leaching or is it a low risk? And the other source, that there are a lot of really good maps on some of the NIWA websites, you know, in terms of is there phosphate or nitrogen in those streams and what that is. So the one on the left is a NIWA map. So there are a lot of good sources of maps.